Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delayed start. We've had a few technical difficulties. Let's wait just 30 more seconds to allow our participants to join. All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Catherine Agert. I'm a professor of English and Senior Vice Provost for Academic Planning and Assessment, and I'll be moderating today's call. Some quick housekeeping items before we get started. All attendee lines will be muted throughout the call. When we get to Q&A, please place your question in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We will do our best to get to all questions. Please know we are prioritizing questions from parents and students. If we don't get to your question, you can reach us at our website, colorado.edu/COVID-19. As a reminder, today's call will be recorded. This recording will be added to our COVID-19 website. On today's call, we have Chancellor Philip DeStefano, Provost Russell Moore, and Interim Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Operating Officer, Patrick O'Rourke. We also have with us Carla Hoa, Chief Financial Officer, Akira Bradley, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, and Jennifer McDuffie, Associate Vice Chancellor for Health and Wellness. I'll now turn it over to Chancellor DeStefano for some opening comments.
Thank you, Catherine, and welcome everyone. Earlier this week, we learned that Boulder County will shift to a higher risk category on Colorado's COVID-19 dial due to the rapid increase of new COVID-19 cases. Effective today, Boulder County stands at a level orange, safer at home, high risk category, formerly known as the safer at home level 3 category, and will remain at this level until the county reports improvement. This change by the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment does not in of itself mandate that we change our learning modalities for the rest of the fall semester. However, to give our students greater flexibility to travel home before fall break, if they desire, our campus has decided to shift to a fully remote learning mode beginning Monday, November 16th through the end of the semester. Our decision to go fully remote takes into account the rising number of coronavirus cases in Boulder County and in Colorado. This is a proactive approach to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19 on our campus in Boulder and across the Denver metro region and beyond. With this in mind, we are strongly recommending that all of our students get tested 48 to 72 hours before going home. We have plenty of capacity for testing, and we need our off-campus students to get tested as well as our on-campus students. Our Chief Operating Officer, Patrick O'Rourke, will speak more about this in a moment. I want to make a special appeal to our parents who might be on the call to encourage their CU student to get tested. As we all know, this academic year has posed twists and turns unlike anything that we've seen in recent memory. And we are grateful for the resilience displayed by our students, our faculty, and our staff in the face of a once-in-a-century public health crisis. I'm grateful to our students and parents for the flexibility they've shown, to our faculty and staff for the dedication they've shown and the many adaptations that they've made in serving our students. I want our parents to know these are difficult decisions, and these are difficult decisions to make, and we're trying to make them with our students' best interest and their health and safety as our #1 priority. And now I'd like to turn it over to our Chief Operating Officer, Patrick O'Rourke.
Pat, you're on mute.
Thank you, Catherine. As Chancellor DeStefano mentioned, we're making the shift to remote learning a week early to provide our students and their families with maximum flexibility and to be able to enable them to make the right decisions for them during very difficult times. We know, however, that there will be students who will remain with us until the end of when the semester was otherwise supposed to transition, and we'll continue to support our students on campus and in the community. But it's important to remember that COVID conditions have changed across the state. Boulder County has some of the lower infection rates in the Denver metropolitan area, but they're still too high. And today would be the first day in recent times that Boulder County has cases that would push us into the level red. What we know is that this is going to be much harder to address than the previous spike of infection because it's not concentrated in one age group or in one locality. It's affecting all populations and is much more diffusely spread. But that doesn't mean that we at CU can't help. I know that everybody's got COVID fatigue, but the rise in cases across the county and the state is really related to people letting their guard down, not wearing masks, not socially distancing, and gathering in groups outside their households. By paying attention, keeping your guard up, and avoiding those type of gatherings, you can help us keep the rate of infection down, and please do that for your family, for your friends, and for the community. We can do this together. Our own dashboard is showing that we are seeing some more cases on the CU campus after we were really successful in bending the curve down a few weeks ago. The 5-day rolling average of daily cases in the county is 98 per day, which is higher than any other time since the start of the pandemic, with the exception of the surge that we saw in September and early October. We've worked hard to get those numbers down, and we have to be able to act now in order to reduce COVID-19 infections in our community that could strain frontline healthcare workers and lead to shortages of capacity in our hospitals. We know that the opportunity for us to be able to affect this is now. And to those students, faculty, and staff, as Chancellor DeStefano said, we're encouraging you to get tested now. We have the capacity to do that, both at the UMC and at the SEEK building. Please come get tested. Make sure that you're giving us the opportunity to have that early warning system to be able to tell where COVID is within our own community, and that'll help keep the broader community safe. We also know that when students are preparing to leave for the semester, it's vitally important that you come and get tested. This will help prevent the spread of the infection to other communities, to travelers, to family members, and that we're going to provide expanded on-testing capabilities starting next week. All residence hall students should continue your weekly testing and get a test approximately 48 to 72 hours before departing Boulder. Any off-campus students are also strongly encouraged to get tested at any one of our on-campus monitoring sites 48 to 72 hours before traveling. And that also would be available for our faculty and staff. This is something that we want to be able to do for the good of our community. We know that as we move to level orange of safer at home, the limit for CU-sponsored indoor events drops from 50 people, drops from 100 people down to 25% of the venue capacity, and that our limit on CU-sponsored outdoor events drops down to 75 people or 25% of the venue capacity. So please avoid gatherings. And the limits on informal gatherings throughout the county remain the same, a maximum of 10 people from no more than 2 households. These are going to be the type of things that are going to allow us to be able to be successful in trying to keep the spread of infection down. This does not, however, prevent us from continuing with in-person instruction until next week, and that the CU employees who are continuing to work should follow their own normal schedules and protocols. To reiterate what the Chancellor said, we're really grateful for the flexibility of our students, their families, our faculty, and our staff. This has been a hard semester, but it's one that's been successful in many ways. We're still continuing to advance students towards their degrees. We're continuing to meet our academic mission. I'll turn it over to Provost Moore to discuss more about the academic issues.
Thank you, Pat. I want to outline for you the next steps we're taking to provide additional flexibility for our students and their families. As the Chancellor mentioned, the last day for in-person instruction this semester will be Friday, November 13th. We want to provide instructors and students with ample time to prepare for the shift to remote instruction for the remainder of the semester. However, if they choose, students may remain on campus through November 25, and we will continue to provide on-campus housing, dining, and isolation spaces for those who test positive for COVID-19. We also will continue to attend to students' academic, physical, and mental health needs. We'll keep the residence halls, apartments, and dining locations open with the current safety protocols in place, including the continued requirement to participate in weekly virus monitoring appointments, as we've mentioned already. For academic matters, I've sent messages to our instructional faculty and have asked them to communicate clearly with their students to provide specific information and guidance on how this shift will affect their courses, and to consult with their chairs, directors, and/or deans to resolve any logistical challenges associated with the transition to remote teaching. We also have encouraged our instructional faculty to visit the Center for Teaching and Learning and the Office of Information and Technology for any assistance needed with remote instruction. I think we've made great progress in this area since last March. For research and research-related activities, these activities are not impacted at this point, and no requests are necessary related to previous return to research approvals. In closing, I want to echo what the Chancellor and Pat have said. We need students to get tested 48 to 72 hours before they go home. We want to ensure the safety of the CU and Boulder communities and not spread the virus to other communities or families. We have built one of the strongest testing capabilities in the county, and we've encouraged everyone with a Buff One card to take advantage of it. I also want to echo their thanks to our students who have endured a difficult semester, and to our faculty and staff who have worked tirelessly to serve our students and to help them to try to have a productive academic experience at CU Boulder. And now I'll turn it back to Catherine.
Thank you, Chancellor, Russ, and Pat. Now I would like to open it up for Q&A. Again, if you have a question, please feel free to enter it into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We're prioritizing questions from students and family members. Our first question is for Pat. Will monitoring testing and PCR testing continue to be available to staff, faculty, and local students? Do you expect it to be scaled back at any time?
So the answer to that question is yes, we will continue to make the monitoring testing available for off-campus students, faculty, and staff. That will be available throughout even after we shift to remote instruction. And the answer to the second question is no, we don't anticipate scaling that back. And actually, one of the things that we're going to be trying to do before the spring semester starts is to increase that capacity so that we have even more ability to be able to offer that testing to our off-campus populations.
A quick follow-up, Pat. Just to clarify, will those testing locations on campus be open the entire winter break?
I believe so. I think that we will have to look at holiday schedules and make sure, and it may not be all of the same locations that are open, but that throughout the course of the entire period, we do intend to be able to offer that testing. It's just that we need to make sure we've got the logistics worked out.
Thank you. Next question is for you, Russ. What about student success outcomes? In our focus on COVID-19 cases, are we forgetting about our academic priorities? This one-factor decision-making is worrying me.
No, we certainly have not lost focus on our academic priorities. That said, this has been once in a lifetime challenge. I hope it's a once in a lifetime challenge for us in trying to navigate the conduct of an academic semester under pandemic conditions. We do have lots of resources for our faculty, for our students, and also for our staff who are in support of our faculty and students to try to adapt as rapidly as possible to provide the best academic experience that we can. What I can say definitively is we're learning more and more every day, and we continuously have optimism that we'll be able to improve the student campus experience moving forward beyond the Thanksgiving holiday.
Another question for you, Russ. Given the many, many difficulties, might see you reconsider extending pass-fail options. My son and many of his peers are struggling enormously across the board.
No, not this semester. We did consult with student government, we consulted with faculty, and we did extend our pass-fail deadline from the end of the third week of instruction to the end of the 10th week of instruction. So we hope that that provided enough time for our students to make a thoughtful decision. For those students who are now struggling, I really would like to encourage them to engage with their academic advisors and to directly engage with their faculty members to get the necessary help and the support they need. And on other parts of student wellness that contribute to academic success, we also have resources available in the mental health realm.
Thank you, Russ. Pat, the next question is for you. Do we have any classrooms that are currently at greater than 25% of the maximum capacity? To put it a different way, is the campus relying on any special dispensations from the county or state to allow us to continue operating in person until November 13, while we're still under the higher risk orange order?
So it's a little bit complicated, but the short answer is that under the state's COVID framework, in-person instructional activities are not subject to that 25% space limitation. Instead, they are subject to using the space calculator for academic settings, and all of our instructional spaces have been evaluated, both for the adequacy of ventilation as well as for the distancing of people within those environments. So there is not a change in the classroom environment that has been necessitated by the move from level yellow to level orange, and that we are still unaware of any evidence that in the classroom environment that there's been any spread of infection. I'm really proud of the work that was done by our facilities group in order to ensure that that environment remains a very safe place.
Thank you, Pat. The next question is for both you and Russ. How does this transition to remote impact the plan for spring 2021?
So I'll take the first crack at this. So this change that we're going through right now actually does not impact our plans for planning for spring 2021. We're still planning on offering in-person options. Again, as I said in my last answer, we have learned a lot during this fall semester, and arguably most of the things that we've done to adapt to this pandemic condition is the first time we've ever done it. We are now learning and not doing things for the first time moving forward. An example would be that Pat just alluded to. Our classroom safety protocols are actually the most conservative. So they're well suited for safe conduct of pedagogical activities in person. And moving forward, we are expanding our testing capabilities, our contact tracing capabilities, and we are being very intentional over the next 2 months leading up to the spring semester to provide what we hope will be a richer student experience on campus moving forward. So again, taking all the lessons learned over the fall semester, we believe to be well positioned to engage in our academic mission in the spring semester.
Thank you, Russ. Chancellor, this question is for you and perhaps also for Pat. Why is CU hosting a football game on Saturday, given the rising rates of infection?
Chancellor, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Catherine. We work closely with the Pac-12. The presidents and chancellors of the Pac-12 universities met over a month ago to talk about resuming football in our stadiums. And as you may have read, we will not be having many fans in the stadium. The only individuals that will be allowed in the stadium are parents of our student athletes. And that number will be roughly between 500 and 600 in a stadium of 52,000. And we'll be making sure that they're in pods, socially distanced from each other, so that they can watch their sons play football. Pat worked with the Boulder County, and Boulder County has agreed to the protocol set forth by the Pac-12, and it's in line, the protocols are in line with this most recent decision from the county. So Pat, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
The only thing that I would add, Phil, is that we understand the concern. We've worked very hard with Boulder County Public Health and with CDPHE to review the protocols and make sure that we've created the conditions where this competition can safely occur. As Chancellor DeStefano mentioned, we will only have an extraordinarily small number of people who will be attending the game as spectators. For the players themselves, that they have been getting daily antigen testing. We've seen no evidence of spread of infection within those programs. And we're really committed to that if there was any spread of infection, we would take efforts necessary to be able to ensure that those games would not occur under unsafe conditions. But I do have a request for the people who are fans of the team, which is first, please don't come to campus. We're not going to be allowing tailgating. We don't want to have people gathering in unsafe ways. Similarly, this is not a great time to be going out to bars or having big parties or anything else in your own home. Right now, with the spread of infection in the community, being safe, being with your own family members, keeping your social gatherings within your own households is crucially important. If you want to support the team, we welcome the support, but please don't do it in a way that would create any risk of further spread of the disease within the community.
Thanks to you both. Pat, this question is also for you and also for Russ. How would campus operate if we get to a level red stay-at-home order? As I understand it, a level red could come up 2 weeks from now with current county trends. Will students who are living in dorms continue to be supported by staff and so forth?
So the answer is absolutely. If we do move to level red, that would not prevent us, and in fact is not designed to prevent us from being able to support those students that need to be supported. We might have students who would be in isolation. We would continue to be able to support them as well as any other residents within the residence halls. We are allowed to carry on housing and dining type of activities. We will continue to support our health and wellness activities and make sure that we have the ability to test, to be able to follow up on contact tracing, to be able to provide all of the critical and essential services for the campus. It would probably result in some employees who might otherwise be working on campus to be consulting with their supervisors so that they can work from home if we've had shifts in the need to have those people on campus. But the important thing is that our critical and essential services, in order to be able to support our campus community, would continue even if we were at level red.
I have nothing to add. That was a great answer.
Thank you. I'll stick with you, Pat. And this may also be a question for Vice Chancellor Bradley. Will there be any refund on housing or on meal plans?
So the answer to that is no. That the housing and dining contracts this year specify that if we have completed the fall semester in the residence halls and we are keeping the residence halls open and available for everyone through the Thanksgiving holidays, that we have completed the terms of that contract. We've incurred extraordinary expense during the course of the semester to make those safe environments. And that we, as much as I understand the request, wouldn't be able to do refunds on housing and dining for the remainder of the semester.
Also for you, Pat, is being tested for COVID a requirement before students can leave Boulder?
No, it's not a requirement. We can't stop someone from traveling if they choose to do so. For those students who are continuing to live in the residence halls, it is one of the requirements for them that they continue with the testing protocols. And if they are going to travel, like I said earlier, would really welcome them doing that test 48 to 72 hours before they travel. For everyone else, it's not mandatory. We can't stop people from traveling and going to other places. But getting that test is important. It shows care for the people who they're going to come in contact with. And a lot of our students and others will be traveling back to places where they'll be seeing parents, grandparents, people who are more vulnerable than they are. Getting that test on the front end is one of the best ways that you can demonstrate compassion and care for the people who you're going to come in contact with. And so please do it and support good health in our community and in even your own family.
I have a couple of additional follow-up questions about testing, so I'll just ask them in a cluster, Pat. Do you have a way for folks in Denver to be tested? I don't come to campus.
No, our locations are contained in Boulder themselves. So we don't have a mobile testing facility for employees and people who are living outside of Boulder County itself. There are testing facilities within Denver that you can look up through the CDPHE site, but I wish we did have the ability to be more mobile, but we don't have a mobile capacity at the moment.
And one more about testing for you, Pat, and also for our student affairs experts. What if my son tests positive just before the move out date of November 25th?
So if someone tests positive, they could go into isolation for the period of their infectiousness. Obviously, that's something that we have those spaces available. Previously, the Boulder County Public Health put some protocols into effect that would allow people, even if they were COVID positive, to travel back to their homes if they were located within a 5-hour drive, and the people would not be stopping during the course of that trip. People who have tested positive certainly shouldn't air travel, shouldn't be in a position where they are potentially infectious and spreading that to other communities through the means of travel and other type of public transport. We will continue to support anyone who tests positive and otherwise wouldn't be able to leave and needs to be supported in the residence halls during that period.
Thank you, Pat. This next question is primarily for Russ. Pat, maybe also for you. Does the university recommend that CU students depart campus by the end of in-person classes on November 13th, if they can ensure their safety and that of others?
So we're providing that as an option. I'm not going to frame it as a strong recommendation, but I'd like to frame it as an option for students and their families to make the best decisions as to how they would like to get their students home. So the reason we are moving our decision to move to remote instruction 1 week earlier is specifically for that purpose. If it makes it easier for students to get home for that holiday break and then completing the rest of the semester online, that I would encourage students and their families to take advantage of that opportunity. If they're comfortable with their current travel arrangements, as I know many tickets have already been purchased, then students certainly have that option. Again, I do want to stress what Pat just said. We strongly, strongly encourage students to make sure they get tested before they travel to protect not only themselves, but their families and those with whom they come in contact as they're traveling home.
Thank you, Russ. I'll keep you here for the next question. Actually begins with a compliment. Thank you for this town hall and all you are doing to keep everyone safe and informed. This is a two-part question. First, during the previous shift to remote learning, there were some exceptions granted for classes to continue to happen in person. Will there be any exceptions granted this time by petition to the deans to have some in-person or lab components continue through the week of the 16th or beyond?
So I anticipate having firmer guidance on that, hopefully by the end of the day. The answer is possibly a yes. But what must happen though is, since we are declaring that we are going to be ending in-person instruction on the 13th, that I don't want to eliminate the possibility or penalize any student who chooses to take us up on the offer to leave earlier. So if we come up with that clearer guidance later today, it certainly will protect students' discretion in terms of when they choose to go home after the end of the 13th.
Thank you, Russ. And I think you answered the second part of the question already. So I'll go on to the next question for Pat and Russ jointly. And this is a question about breaks. How did the decision-making for a shorter fall break and no spring break take student mental health into consideration? As a CU student, I'm struggling with having no break from school and being overworked with online classes.
That's an excellent question. And I can assure you that the decision-making process wasn't an easy one. That said, I think the physical health and safety for our whole community basically was one of the primary factors that we considered when we designed our academic calendar. An example would be if we were to give a week-long spring break, for example, that culminated in a large outbreak amongst our student body population and perhaps some of our staff, then I think, we would have a huge management problem on our hands that also impinges very severely on student health as well. Because every time we have to make a transition from in-person to remote and making these changes on the fly, it is also very disruptive to our students and therefore their mental health. I do understand there's no perfect situation. I wish we were not in this COVID situation, but we did insert some wellness days in the spring, and we are working with our faculty and our staff to provide some other release valve activities, safe ones, that we can use in the spring to try to alleviate the very real consequences that the pandemic is exacting on student mental health.
Pat, this next question is for you. Does going remote impact the rec center operations or events?
Akira, could you jump in on that one? I don't think I know the answer to Rec Center.
Yeah, so the rec center will remain open while we're observing the local and state guidance. We will continue to follow all of the public health orders as they are aligned.
So I think that would mean that Rec Center would still be open on a reservation basis, Akira?
Absolutely.
Great.
And then Pat, the last part of that question was about events. Will going remote on the 13th or on the 16th impact events?
So what it could do for events is that it reduces the capacity, meaning that outdoor events before under the state guidelines could be of a certain size. It restricts them down even further, but there is still some ability to offer events, and student affairs and others will be looking at what programming that they can do within that capacity.
Thank you, Pat. Another question about testing for you, and this is for the spring semester. Will there be a requirement to be tested before returning to on-campus housing in the spring semester?
Yes, there will. It will be much like the move-in process for the fall, where students would either need to be able to demonstrate that they have a negative test that had been recently administered, or will have testing available as part of the move-in process. So that either way, we want to make sure that we're not having students come back into the residence halls in a potentially infectious state, because that's something that we can control and be able to make sure that we get the spring semester off to a good start.
Thanks, Pat. Russ, a question for you. Are there any supports being offered for School of Education student teachers and student interns who have to continue working in person in BVSD and St. Vrain schools?
Yes, it's a twofold answer here. First, in order for them to be able to do that, I believe we asked them to come up with safety protocols and safety plans. And secondly, we have encouraged all of those folks to take advantage of the testing that's available so that they can make sure that they're protecting the classes in which they're entering, and also to make sure they're monitoring their health and wellness personally.
Another question for you, Russ, and perhaps also for me. Will special consideration be given to music majors? Performance majors should remain in person. It's too difficult to deliver quality instruction remotely for performance classes.
Great question. So I've been working with Dean Shea in the College of Music. There are special performances that are required to complete different academic experiences in the College of Music. So we have made provisions for that to occur. I think Dean Shea is trying to front load some of those, but some of those would be in person, but they would be very, very socially distant, such that it might just be the performer doing the recital and then the judges.
And I'll add to that performance classes may be, depending on the guidance we issue, may be one of those instances where the college can petition for keeping those classes in person, but again, without penalizing those students who do need to go home because of travel plans. Another question for Russ. The email says today is the last day of in-person. I'm not sure which email is being referred to here. Is the last day of in-person class the 6th or the 13th of November?
The 13th. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I have to find out what email went out. So the last thing I want to do is create more confusion. So let me be very clear. The last day of in-person instruction is the 13th.
Thank you. This is for Vice Chancellor Bradley. Are we providing housing options for international students who are not able to go home due to travel issues with student visas?
Thanks, Catherine. So all students who are living on campus right now have the option to apply to remain in the residence halls over the fall and the winter break. That deadline that's coming up is November 9th. So if you have not applied and you need to, please do so, and you can visit our occupancy management office for more information on that.
I'll stay with you, Akira, for the next question, also about housing. Will the requirement for freshmen to live on campus be waived for the spring semester?
So we're working with our students and families who may apply for an exemption to live off campus. Should a first-year student currently be living within housing and wish to be released from their contract, they can certainly petition for an exemption of the live-on requirement, and they do that through the MyCU Living portal. So that's the place that students would go to submit that information. But there is not a blanket waived for the live-on for freshmen.
Thank you, Akira. A question for both Pat and Russ. The campus normally closes the Friday of spring break week, which this next semester was going to be on March 26th. Since there will be no spring break week, will campus still close on March 26th? And if not, what are the implications for a staff holiday on March 26th?
So I appreciate the question. The spring calendar is something that we're looking at closely because of that holiday, as well as we know that there's going to be some uncertainty created by the wellness days. The short answer is that we're talking about it, but we don't yet have the full answer on that particular day. And we hope to be able to provide some more clear guidance real soon. But we want to make sure that we're thinking through all the implications. So please stay tuned.
Thank you, Pat. Back to you, Akira. This is a question about the football game on Saturday. Are there any COVID-friendly spirit events planned for students to support their buffs before the Saturday football game?
Well, yes, actually this afternoon, we have Chip making golf cart tour appearances throughout the residence halls, kind of riding around. So you'll be able to catch him this afternoon. And we also are encouraging students to watch the game in safe conditions, mask, socially distance, not sharing snacks, but in your small social bubbles that you've created this semester.
Thank you. A question for Russ and perhaps also again for Akira. Should we be signing off-campus leases for next year without knowing CU's plans for fall 2021? I don't want to sign a lease only to have CU be solely remote, but housing opportunities are running out.
So for next academic year, I would say go ahead and secure your lease. As time moves on, we're getting better and better at dealing with this. I also am hopeful that between therapeutics and hopefully vaccine development, that conditions will be improving. So we certainly anticipate having campus operations that hopefully will be significantly improved over what we did this fall, because my hope, and again, hope is not a strategy, but my hope is that conditions on the ground will be more favorable, and also our ability to respond and adapt to and live with this pandemic are improving every day. So the answer is yes.
Thank you, Russ. Our next question is for Jennifer McDuffie. Jennifer, Are there options for students on the student health insurance plan to maintain coverage if they contract COVID and are too sick to enroll in classes?
That's a really good question, and hopefully not one that we actually have to work with students on. But if we were, I would say that we would look at this as an individual case, and we need to look at the insurance and referral team. So please reach out to us at healthinfo@colorado.edu, and we'll be in touch. Our gold insurance is often one of the main requirements is that a student is enrolled at CU Boulder, but obviously there are extreme circumstances that we can work
So Jennifer, you were cutting out just a little bit there, but let me repeat back to you that the student or the family should contact the insurance office.
Yes, so students, part of being enrolled in the Gold Insurance program is that you are enrolled at CU Boulder. There are certain exceptions for that in extreme situations. So please contact the Insurance and Referral Office, which is healthinfo@colorado.edu, and we'll work individually with the student.
Thank you, Jennifer. Pat, a question for you. Will there be changes to winter break for staff? Will we be required to take a certain number of vacation or furlough days during winter break?
So the short answer there is no. That no one would be required to take vacation or furlough days over winter break. We have, however, for staff recognized that supervisors do have the ability to extend administrative leave to people over the winter holidays, and want to recognize that there's been really extraordinary work done by staff throughout the course of the semester, and appreciate the work that they've done.
Thank you, Pat. A question about housing and testing. So this would be for you, Akira, and also for you, Jennifer. I think there are two questions here. First one is, if someone tests positive prior to leaving campus before the break, where will they isolate, and will that be available during the Thanksgiving break?
So I'll start, and Jennifer, if you just want to chime in. So for our students living on campus who test positive before the 25th, when the halls close, we're continuing to provide isolation services. We're continuing to provide housing and dining, as well as medical advice. Jennifer, do you want to take the second part of that question?
Yes, Catherine, would you repeat the second part?
Actually, I think Akira, you answered the first part, but let me move on to a second part. Let's say a student tests positive 2 days before they're leaving Boulder. How long will they need to stay in the isolation dorms?
That's a very good question. And one of the reasons that we're encouraging all students to test prior to leaving, so that we can make sure that we maintain as much as we can the mitigation for community spread. But what it would mean is we would work with the individual student or person, obviously in this case student, and look at when the infectious period is, what are the symptoms, and really working with the medical providers as well as our case investigators to determine when that isolation period would be over. But it's generally about 10 days.
Question then, still for you, Jennifer, and also for Pat. My son tested positive for COVID in mid-September and he recovered. Should he still get tested before traveling home?
So Jennifer can answer more precisely, but my understanding is that for those students who have tested positive during that period of time, that the testing is not reliable for a period of about 90 days. And so it would not be recommended that they would test before traveling.
That's correct. And if there's anything else that the student would need, for example, Typically, their medical provider can provide a letter stating that.
Thanks to you both. The next question, I believe, is for me. Can you talk a little bit about fall finals? Is there a reading day? And also, when will the final schedule be determined? So first of all, the final schedule has already been determined, and it's posted on the registrar website. Also, students are able to look up their final schedule in Buff portal. And yes, there is a reading day before the beginning of final exams. The reading day is December 8th, and final exams begin December 9th and last through the 13th. A question for you, Russ. Can students use hands-on engineering facilities during the week of November 16th to complete final projects?
I'm working with Dean Molinar on that as we speak. So please stay tuned, and I hope to have that information for you aspirationally by the end of the day.
Thank you. And I'll add that this applies to several of the kinds of classes we've been talking about, hands-on classes for performance and so on. I believe we have time for one more question. And this is kind of an involved one, so I'll call upon you, Chancellor, and you, Pat, and you, Russ. Any idea of the financial costs associated with moving more quickly to fully remote? And has it been worth it to convene this semester in the way that you did?
Well, let me answer that second part. Yes, I believe we made the right decision to open. When we look at the whole semester, and we knew that there were going to be bumps along the way, and there were, but as I looked at things, we've gotten through most of the semester. We had to move to remote a few weeks ago. We've learned a lot this semester. I mean, think about it. The university's, it's an educational experience. We've learned a lot this fall semester that I believe will really help us in the spring semester to have a more successful semester. And then certainly working toward fall. So I believe that we've had a semester unlike any that we've ever experienced before. At the same time, I believe that we were able to provide both through in-person and remote the quality education that our students deserve. And as I said, we've learned quite a bit this semester that we will be implementing those changes from what we learned in the spring semester.
I'll pick up the first part of the question, which the shift to remote now will not impose significant additional costs to what we've already incurred. There will be some additional fees, or not fees, but costs related to technology, to academic technology, maybe some for proctoring, but that overall, that's not a driving consideration here. We've made really tremendous investments to try to be able to support the overall semester. And as Chancellor DeStefano just said, we've had some challenges along the way, but what we definitely saw was that our community can step up, that it can have a successful experience. I've heard from students, I've heard from their parents how important it has been that they have been able to participate in the experience that we've been able to have this semester. And we're committed to trying to build upon that and make sure that we're offering a higher degree of engagement next semester, making the student experience really beneficial, and continuing to fulfill the academic mission, which is extraordinarily important.
So we've come to the end of our time. I will give you a bit more information, but first I want to thank you all for calling in today. We typically provide campus COVID-19 related updates every Tuesday at noon, and we give a comprehensive weekly wrap up every Thursday in CU Boulder Today. You can also give us feedback by visiting our COVID-19 website. That's colorado.edu/COVID-19. At the bottom of that page, you'll find a chat, and you'll also find at the bottom of the page a questions and comments link. We'll now end the call. Thank you all for joining.